We're going to be going through the average day in the life for a machinist. Before we do, make sure you like and subscribe to see more videos. Let's get into it. Okay guys, so this video today is going to be for some of you guys who are considering getting into the trade or don't know a lot about being a machinist. You know, if you have been a machinist for 10 years, this video is probably not going to tell you anything you don't already know. But if you're someone who is considering either changing trades to get into machining or, you know, this kind of precision trade, or maybe you're in high school and you're trying to figure out what to do once you're done and graduated, this is just going to guide you through some of the things that a machinist does in an average day so you can see if it's going to be something that's for you or not. Let's take a look. All right guys, so one of the first things you might do when you come into the shop after you've gotten the coffee out of the way is material prep. What material prep is getting material ready to be run inside a machine. So you may use something like this. This is a rolling bandsaw. And what this does is you take material, you mark where you want to cut it, roll the blade in, and it cuts your material to length. Because very rarely do you get material either pre-cut coming in the door to the length you need, or do you need to turn or machine an entire length at once. So the first step is going through and cutting all your pieces of material to get them ready to go. Not too hard, but it's something that somebody needs to do. In some shops, that is someone's entire job, is being a saw guy. Typically that's a job where guys will start out because it's something that is fairly repetitive and a good foot in the door for machining. So that's the first thing I would probably do in a day, is cut my material and get it ready to go. The next thing you might do is deburr and get your material ready to go. Now deburring basically means to remove the burr. When you cut something on a saw, typically it'll have a sharp edge and usually a burr, which is kind of like a piece of material that's left over, and it's usually sharp, ugly, and you want to get rid of it. Also, typically because of that burr, if you try to put that in a vise right away, it's not going to fit right. It's not going to sit flat. You know, you're not going to be able to use a good hard stop on that because it might be kicked out. So the next thing we do is deburr parts. You also have to deburr parts when they come out of the machine, unless you have done a lot of deburring in the machine, but that's another story for another day. Typically, this is something you can do while a machine is running. Some big shops even have entire deburring departments where all those guys do all day is go through and deburr parts. To deburr parts, you might be using something like a belt sander, you might be using a hand file, you might be using a deburring tool, which is kind of a little hooked blade that you drag along the edge. And you know, you could use something as big as a grinder, like a full out bench grinder or a Dremel or a Dumor. All these things are really important to know how to use when you're a machinist in order to make your part fit and finish properly. So this is probably the next kind of thing we'd end up doing in a day. Next up would be setup and fixturing. And if this sounds a little echoey right now, that's because you're inside my machine. For setup and fixturing, this involves setting up vices, work holding, you know, custom fixturing if we need to do it inside the machine and getting it ready to go. Every job has a slightly different setup. You know, something like a standard vise can run a lot of jobs, but the way you set up your tools, the way you set up you know, where things are on the table, whether you have a multi-vise setup, all varies depending on the job. And this as well, in some shops, is someone's entire job, is to set up machines all day so that operators can run them. There's two kinds of machinists in some shops, where you have your operators that basically stand and run the machines all day, and then you have the setup guys. And the setup guys go through and actually set every job up, run the first off and test things to make sure everything's running smoothly. So getting everything together inside the machines, you know, cleaning off the table, making sure you're ready to go, touching off your tools, that's kind of the next part that you would get to in a day if you were taking a job from scratch.
We must
Next up is, of course, programming. Programming is one of the biggest things you can learn and teach yourself, or at least start to teach yourself, that if you're getting into machining, will help you in your career. Very few long-term machinists, unless you are in a strictly manual shop, and I don't think many of them exist these days comparatively to 20 years ago, is learning how to program. Programming is taking your drawings of your part, maybe they're 3D models, and putting them into something like this, a CAD CAM system that lets you basically program what your CNC machine is going to do. So for instance, I can program a lathe on here, I can program a wire EDM, I can program a 4-axis mill, 3-axis mill, 5-axis mill. It's taking information from the drawing, adding tool paths, and basically telling the CNC what you want it to do, and at the end, what that part is going to look like. It is one of the parts of this job with one of the largest learning curves, because it's something that seems simple, but there are a lot of little variables that go into it that really you can only learn by repetition and by trial and error. So learning how to program is going to be extremely beneficial for your career. This can sometimes be guys' entire jobs. There are big shops where all guys do is program all day. If you're into computers, if you're into something that's a little less on the floor, a little less hands-on, programming is an incredible skill to have. Programmers tend to get paid well, but pretty much every machinist, in my opinion, should know how to program, even if they're going to be on the floor most of the time, because being able to take a drawing and a piece of material, put it in your mill, and make a part is something that no one can ever take away from you, and that's a skill you can carry with you your entire life. Which brings us to, of course, operation. Operator is kind of a dirty word for some reason in machinist heads, because it implies someone who stands in a machine and runs it all day. But this is really where the money gets made. You don't sell programs to companies. You don't sell, I mean you can, but you don't make money off your drawings. You don't make money off your programming. You make money off a spindle turning and this machine going, that green light on. This is where the rubber meets the road of machining. And as an operator or as a machinist doing operator work, this is where, chips fly. This is where the machining happens. This is where, the entire rest of your day sets up to doing this. This is typically what a lot of machinists will do most of the day. You spend a couple hours setting up a job, programming it, and then you might be running that machine, or someone else will be running that machine for hours. Operator is a job on its own. It is a very good entry-level position. Some people call them button pushers, but essentially it's the person who stands at the machine, runs it, and is responsible for making sure the parts are coming out correctly. Typically, when you're doing operation, you will be doing some QC, so using something like a caliper, like this, to measure things out and make sure that the part is coming out according to the drawing. But generally, you will not be doing the more intensive QC or quality assurance work here at the machine. This is also where you're gonna have to do things like change tools, because tools break. No matter what you want to do, tools are gonna break. Knowing how to change tools, knowing how to touch off tools to read their heights, knowing how to check to make sure the machine is still, the vise is still aligned on the table. All these things are gonna separate a good operator or someone who's good at operating from someone who literally just pushes a button all day. So it is a very important part of your day, because a lot of days it may be your entire day. And of course, cleaning, sweeping up all those chips you just made, wiping down machines, cleaning out tables, swiping chips out of the machine. Cleaning is an inevitable part of machining. It's a lot like how guys get into brewing beer because, oh, I want to be a brewer, and then find out that it's 60% cleaning. This job is not 60% cleaning, but unless you are the top of the totem pole and your time is just too valuable to be doing cleaning, you're gonna be cleaning. You know what, it's not a bad thing. Everybody likes having a clean shop. You will clean between cycles, you will end up cleaning at the end of the day, you'll clean up your work area when a job is done. You'll have to clean things before you start, because that's just the way life is sometimes. Cleaning is a very big part of machining. unless you are a guy who literally programs all day, in which case you probably just keep your desk clean, okay? After that part is done, the next part of your day will typically be QA or QC, quality assurance or quality checks. This is where you'll take your part to a place like this. Some places in some shops, this place is huge. It is an entire room. In some big shops, there is an entire QA or QC department. At a small shop like mine, we just have a QA or QC area. This is where you use something like a height gauge or your micrometers, the real precision parts of measure, or precision tools when it comes to measuring, to make sure that your part is in tolerance and the part you just made on your machines is actually to the drawing. Machining is a precision trade. Generally, you're not doing things you're not going to check. Very rarely will you have a job where it will say, put 4 holes in a piece of metal, I don't care where they are. Even the loosest tolerances in dimensions are still tolerances. So going and checking, especially the really tight tolerances where something may be plus or minus 1 thou or half a thou or 2/10, with a piece of equipment that is capable of actually accurately and repeatedly reading that kind of information, is going to be a big part of your day if you are a general machinist. Some jobs you have to measure every single part because there's a lot of things that are critical. Other jobs you may measure a first off, a couple during the run, and just a final part. It really depends on your shop, whether you are something like 9001, whatever that certification is, certified, whether you're doing something like aerospace where literally you're going to make a plane drop out of the sky if you are not doing things correctly. But making sure that you are checking your work is going to be a big part of your day. If you get into somewhere like a QA department, all you may do is check other people's work all day, and that's okay. Some guys love it. This is a very detail-oriented part of your job. This is going to eat a lot of time because it takes a lot of time to do inspection on parts and first article inspection and all that good stuff. But it's extremely rewarding at the end of the day when you go through all the stuff we just did, come out with a part that looks difficult, is difficult, has tight tolerances, you go check it, and you are bang on the money everywhere. After this, then it gets shipped out. And shipping out really depends on your shop, guys. I'm not gonna go show you some cardboard boxes and tape because I figure pretty much everybody has put things in a box before. Anyways, guys, I hope this has been helpful. I hope this little walkthrough being a machinist has been interesting for some of you guys who have not done machining whatsoever, or some of you guys maybe just considering getting into the trade. In any case, I think there's always room for more machinists. As with any trade, the more you know, the better it's going to be for you and the easier you are going to be able to find work as a machinist. So never stop trying to learn and improving what you do, okay? Thank you very much for watching, guys. You take care.